do faith-based institutions have any role to play in promoting SMEs on the continent? And when we talk about SMEs, we're talking about the private sector.
Not to give us a time, let us give the government
a bit of time.
The decision makers take their time, take the right decision. We need it quickly. If we make it happen tomorrow, it's good. But before we get there, are we going to stop doing business?
No.
Are we going to stop moving?
No.
Are we going to stop or invest?
Right.
So before getting there, let us advocate and invite at least two countries
to
agree to facilitate movement of people between.
Is Africa integrating or disintegrating from the standpoint of business as far as the private sector is concerned? And I want you to look at it from the standpoint of the AFCT. Once again, welcome to the Religion and Enterprise Television, where we discuss the role of faith-based institutions in the promotion of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and the Agenda 2063. And in doing so, we are mindful of the fact that in Africa, most SMEs find themselves in the informal sector. In other words, most entrepreneurs in Africa are either Christians or Muslims. And to that extent, the question we are asking, do faith-based institutions have any role to play in promoting SMEs on the continent? And when we talk about SMEs, we're talking about the private sector. Here I'm talking about His Excellency AMINOU Akadiri. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce and Industry. And at the same time, he's also the Executive Director of the Africa Business Council. We're going right into the heart of the private sector in our continent. Your Excellency, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the Religion and Enterprise Television.
Likewise, Dr. Tumi.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's begin this conversation. Would you mind tell us a little bit about yourself and the role you are playing, both from the standpoint of the Federation of West Africa Chambers of Commerce and the African Business Council? Just a little brief on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to this platform to talk about the private sector in West Africa and the continental level. My name, as you said, is Akadiri AMINOU. I'm the Executive Director of the two organizations that you just mentioned. And our key role is to make sure that we bring private sector position perspective to support the achievement of the objective of deepening regional and continental integration. From the West Africa, where I'm coming from, we were the West Africa Chambers of Commerce that were created since 1972. What we do in West Africa is that we, with our observer status at ECOWAS Head of State Summit, we provide private sector position on all the policy related to trade investment and cross-border access to market in West Africa. At the continental level as well, under the Africa Business Council, we do same, because Africa Business Council is created with the same architecture like the FCFTA Secretariat. So it's to provide private sector position in any policy related to trade, investment, cross-border trade, investment, and access to market.
Very, very interesting, Your Excellency. We've had quite a number of discussions. One of the key discussions we've had is to do with policy. And we were privileged to have a conversation with the Senior Policy Advisor at the United Economic Commission for Africa, in the person of Dr. Mensa. Dr. Joseph Mensa, from our conversation, we got to know he was one of the architects of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, right from the engine room when this whole conceptualization started. Now, from his standpoint, and we are not going to go into what is Africa Continental, everybody knows what it is now.
Exactly.
And but from his standpoint, he thinks that the private sector seems not to be proactive, and that the private sector seems to be waiting on, member states, governments to set the ball rolling, rather than they becoming a lobbying, if you like, agency to ensure that the process is fast-tracked. And here we are talking in specific reference to the private sector participation with regard to the SMEs. What is happening?
coming from professor from the
Unique.
caliber of the person that you mentioned, we don't need to make argumentation on
Sure.
it. But what I can tell you is that when this project started, there are many key people that works at African Union level here or in REX that didn't want to mention their name.
Yes, sure.
Because there are some activity that came in where a private sector play a key role.
Right.
Private sector play a key role because I witnessed the participation of private sector in 0 drafts of the AFCFTA when it was drafted. We at West Africa, we did a need assessment of the private sector involvement in deepening regional integration in 2010. And we came out with some concepts that if we need to achieve the objective of deepening regional integration,
Right.
we need private sector to play a key role. What type of role capacity can play? The first role is building capacity. Another one is research and development.
Right.
Another one is investing in infrastructure.
Right.
So for that one, we came to African Union because FEWACCI, as well as we have observer status to African ECOWAS level, we also have the same observer status at African Union. Since my background, since that we went there. So what we think that's need assessment that we did, we provide to African Union that if you want to succeed on the FCFTA implementation, you have to take this position of private sector.
Right.
What I'm saying, many people can witness,
Sure.
because FEWACCI was the famous private sector business support organization that represent privation sector in the drafting of FCFTA.
Wonderful.
Later on, I think it is during the Gamut 5 when the decision was taken that the negotiation should be state by state,
Right.
instead of rec by rec.
Right.
That's where a representative of a government came in. So, taken from there, we can now see how private sector is involved,
Right.
because it's to member states to mobilize private sector participation in FCFTA drafting implementation, not at a regional level. What we are doing at a regional level is to support, like ECOWAS is supporting member states that all the policies that we harmonize in West Africa should be supporting the drafting at continental level.
Right.
So that's what I can give as if private sector is I don't know, is involved or not in the implementation. But when we look at the reality, does private sector really involve? It's daily activity that you have to watch and see how we can more bring private sector in this journey. It's not a journey that we start one day and we stop. It's a continuous journey, because to achieve the continental integration objective is a daily basis activity, either on movement of person and good, that of establishment, either on policy that will support investment across the region.
So let me ask you for, I mean, it's in what you have just said. From what you said, and you know, as we've been talking about integration of the continent, is Africa integrating or disintegrating from the standpoint of business as far as the private sector is concerned? And I want you to look at it from the standpoint of the AFCT.
Dr. Tumi, I would like to look at it in point of view of trade facilitation in the ECOWAS region.
Right.
West Africa is integrating,
because
the founding father of Federation West Africa, they believe that is when the citizen of West Africa has the projects, have the interest in the common project that we can achieve the objective for integration. And what we are doing in West Africa. So let me stop there, because at a continental level is huge.
It's huge.
And we...
Okay. I mean, I understand your diplomacy. Of course, with your background, I understand your diplomacy. And the essence of my question was, if you look at the REX, I mean, in East Africa, everything is running perfectly. There's the East African passport, there is East Africa identity card, West Africa almost the same thing. Now in my own country, Ghana, we have the ECOWAS passport, Benin, almost, I don't know about whether Benin too has the ECOWAS passport, but why is it difficult for us to, let's talk about the AU passport, for example. Why is it becoming so difficult? Because you and I know that for AFCTA to become very successful and well integrated, movement of persons and goods are critical. So where are we now, and what are the bottlenecks from where you sit?
Yes, as I mentioned, I like to refer to my West Africa, where I'm coming from, because you mentioned the passports, all the policies, all the tools that supports the implementation of protocol of movement of person and good. We have it in West Africa for about more than 40 years.
Sure.
As I said, my generation, when somebody say, I'm going to get a visa in West Africa, that means I'm going to Europe.
Absolutely.
But a visa to go to Ghana, visa to go to Cote d'Ivoire is not possible. So we have the successful result in West Africa.
Sure.
And the only one or two policy that we at private sector we are supporting is the policy of on a free movement of person, good and data establishment. Right. The second is the policy on community enterprises creation.
Right.
So that one, honestly speaking, is a achievement that we can take from West Africa and share with other countries. Going beyond, can we have the African Union passports? I think that that one belongs to the governments that are taking such decision. But if you may suggest some things that before we get to the level that we harmonize at continental level, why can't we have an MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, like you are Ghanaian, you are coming to Addis Ababa, there is agreement between Ghana and Ethiopia. You come in with your without a passport, without a visa, sorry. You can do business with, you can invest with people in Ethiopia where we are now. So that kind of position can bring 2 countries, 3 countries together till we achieve the objective, or till we lobby the government to let business people has passport, or let business people have the capacity to move from one country to another country without visa.
Okay. I mean, I see what you're saying. For me, I think it's more of a duplication, but I guess what you're trying to say, let's give ourselves a bit of time and then approach this process.
Not to give us a time, let us give the government
a bit of time.
The decision makers take their time, take the right decision. We need it quickly. If we make it happen tomorrow, it's good. But before we get there, are we going to stop doing business?
No.
Are we going to stop moving?
No.
Are we going to stop or invest?
Right.
So before getting there, let us advocate and invite at least two countries to agree to facilitate movement of people
and
between.
Goods. Before, I mean, as we continue to work on the process of attaining it. So where is the African Business Council in all of this?
African Union Business Council it just came in 2-3 years ago.
Right.
And African Union Business Council is trying to mobilize all the private sector in Africa, so that together we speak at one voice, to make sure that we as private sector, these are our priority, this is what we want. What our priority, as we mentioned before, is how we can easily move, how we can easily invest, how we can easily take our product from one country to another country.
So it's almost like bringing all the chambers of commerce on all the continent together within the private sector. Is that right?
African Union Business is inclusive of everybody, either chambers of commerce, young people, women, SMEs, everybody that see himself as private sector is by the law, by the decision of a head of state, a member of African Union Business Council. Okay.
So let's be focused on the private sector. Africa is noted to be very youthful demographically, and by 2050, Africa is supposed to be the supplier of labor on the global scene, which means the issue of jobs and skills development is critical. Do you think we're on the right course as a continent? Talking in terms of AI, artificial intelligence, technology, and all the things that are happening. I mean, as you know, South Korea, for example, has voted $1 billion into the development of AI industry. China has budgeted $1.5 billion for the next 10 years. Where are we as a continent from the standpoint of private sector?
I think that it's good to look at what is going outside and compare to see where we are, where we can go, use the best practice in the world to correct what we are doing.
Right.
But when we come back to our country, we look at what we are doing.
Right.
We can see that we didn't start from zero.
Right.
And where we are now is a level that we can appreciate.
Right.
We can appreciate because when you look at on the level of job creation, today when we talk about job creation is government, public sector who is creating job. But do we have data? Do we have information on job that SMEs are creating? Job that the informal sector are creating? We don't have. What we have to do by comparing ourselves with other countries is to look at it. What is the potential of job that these SMEs, the big companies are creating compared to what government is creating? Today we are sure that government cannot alone create jobs.
Absolutely.
Today we agree that private sector is the engine of growth and development. How can we bring on the same platform government, business support organization that we are, and SMEs to discuss and see what type of support government can give to SMEs so that we know how many jobs they are creating. Let me give you one example.
Right.
Let us take a country like Burkina Faso or Togo. When you look at the figure of the company, SMEs, even informal sector, that in 2019 and 2020, you compare with the number of graduates, students from university and school, you will see that they are equally same, or even the company created is close to this number of the company created. If government supports SMEs to create at least 5 jobs, when you take SME in agri sector, for example, we can get a job of admin assistant, we can get accountants, we can get quality, in charge of quality, we can get IT and communication, we can get what else again we can get from them. So when we created that type of a company in each SMEs, for the next 5 years, that SMEs will increase in tax paying to government.
Absolutely.
That SMEs will create a job for young people who are trying to go for illegal migrants. You see, so let us take it at that perspective and look at it. What are we providing as private sector, as SMEs especially, in a job creation, and what type of support government can put in place, so that when we come back in next 2 years, we will see that there are many jobs that are already created,
Right.
but we still look at very far to compare what we have with us here.
Okay. Let's talk about the informal sector. In Africa, a lot of SMEs, almost about 70%, are in the informal sector. Do you subscribe to the school of thought that says that instead of working with them to formalize the, so to speak, informal sector, let's try to regularize their operations, but still within the informal state, so that they can build capacity and all of that? What is your thought on that?
Talking about informal sector in Africa is our caution for me.
Right.
Informal sector is our caution in Africa. I just give example of supporting the creation of a job inside the SMEs. Let us assuming that government put in place that such kind of policy supporting SMEs to create jobs. You will see that even those in informal sector, because that discussion should be a commitment between the CEO of the SME with government. So if you put in place that such type of commitment, you will see those in the informal sector will come on the platform, right, register with government to benefit by that support government is giving. I think that is the political will, talking about how we can formalize or we can move from informal sector to formal sector.
Right.
Everything depends on political will.
Right.
For example, during the COVID-19, you can see how SMEs are very, very strong in Africa, how they were resilient because they give them maximum support. So what we need is that the government should look at again the way he's supporting private sector.
Right. If you have just joined us, this is still the Religion and Enterprise platform where we are looking at the role of faith-based institutions in promoting SMEs and within the Continental Free Trade Area and Agenda 2063. And we are privileged to be talking to His Excellency AMINOU AKADIRI, the Chief Executive Officer of the Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce, and at the same time the Chief Executive Director of the Africa Business Council. Do you have, let me ask this, do you have hope in the future of Africa? We believe that Africa is the future of the world. Are you very optimistic about the future of Africa from the standpoint of SMEs development?
I believe.
Why? Why are you optimistic?
I'm optimistic because I'm African.
Of course.
Yes, I'm African because the future is for us in Africa.
Right.
And the future of Africa is SMEs. The future of Africa is young people, women that in majority are doing their business as informal sector or SMEs. So they are the people that we have to support, we have to strengthen, because without them we cannot succeed to go. You can't give the heritage, or you cannot connect them to what the founding father did if you didn't support them.
Right. So I like your optimism, but you also know that most SMEs are struggling. The statistics show that every 2 or 3 years, out of 5 SMEs that start, almost 4 collapse because of access to credit, finance, and all that. Is there any program that is in place at the moment to support SMEs, particularly those run by young entrepreneurs and women within the continent? Maybe from West Africa, since that's where you are very much.
I think the challenge we are having is that we didn't know each other. We didn't know what is going in each member state.
Right.
We didn't know that we have this policy that can support us. Let us go back in each member state. I believe that each government in place put in place a strategy supports a SME to support young people.
So we need to harmonize.
We need to go and understand what type of support exists in each member state.
Right.
Take it at a regional level, harmonize. That will help to identify that we have the potential.
Okay.
We have the finance in Africa.
Right.
What we need is that the government to provide enable environment, and those who have money will bring their money and make business happen in Africa.
In other words, there's hope for SMEs in Africa.
From our perspective in Chambers of Commerce, there are hope for SMEs because any Chambers of Commerce cannot sustain if you don't have SMEs. And our role as a business support organization is to support SMEs.
Wonderful.
We believe that that is from there Africa will achieve its objective.
Excellency, that's the lead camera there. This program is beamed within the 55 countries. So we're talking to 1.2 billion people, or to 1.4 billion people. Now, I want you to give the youth, as you know, majority of the African continent are young people. Now, I want you to look in that camera and from the bottom of your heart, if you believe that Africa indeed is the future of the world, what sort of message do you want to give to the young people of Africa? I mean, you can do it in both English and French. I know you are francophone, so feel free.
Thank you very much. I think that the first thing that we should believe in ourselves. Right. I got the chance to work close of some people who give me the chance to do what I'm doing today. Right. And I would like them to be proud of what I'm doing. Right. What we need as young is that any activity, any job you are doing, make sure that you do it well and they recognize you with what you are doing.
In French also, I mean, because a lot of people are also going to listen to it.
Oui, docteur Toumi, vous voulez que je puisse montrer que je parle bien français, exactement. C'est vrai, nous avons la capacité en tant que jeunes de faire tout ce qui est à notre possibilité de faire développer l'Afrique. Si on nous donne la capacité de faire n'importe quel job, c'est de faire en sorte que tout ce que nous faisons, qu'on puisse nous reconnaître pas nécessairement de ce que nous faisons. Sans quoi on ne peut pas apporter notre contribution à l'atteinte des objectifs de l'intégration économique africaine.
We've been talking to His Excellency AMINOU AKADIRI, the Chief Executive Officer of the Federation of West Africa Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and the Executive Director of the Africa Business Council. And we are trying to understand what is the condition of SMEs on the continent and what can be done to support them. And we've listened to him telling us the good things that have been done across the continent and what the institution, Federation of West Africa Chambers of Industry and Commerce, plus the Africa Business Council are doing in support and in collaboration with governments on 55 countries to support SMEs. And Excellency, it's been a pleasure having you.
It's a pleasure you just take me to this interview.
Yes.
And we believe in something, what we believe that Africa will succeed.
Absolutely, and I'm so grateful for you coming and your time. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Africa needs you.